Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna try and do this as best I can. It's boiling. It's absolutely roasting. It's like 39 degrees. I've got the fan off and the window closed to do this for your audio enjoyment. So bear with me. This might be a mess. This might not be structured as well as normal. It's gonna be long. It's gonna be detailed. It might take me a while to get through things. Please be patient. You've been warned now. I'm gonna do my best. Pray for me. Here we go. So the premise of today's video is as follows. First off, the background footage I'm trying to vary a bit more. I always sell the value of playing with lots of weapons, doing different playstyles so I can be a better player. So I'm trying to now be a better example of that in my footage for your enjoyment and show that I'm practicing as I preach. So hopefully you like that. Then the subject matter of the discussion is that there's a new update for Battlefield 5, update 4.2. It's currently available as you watch this video, and you may well have heard what it includes. I'll say that currently, reports I'm seeing from others are positive so far. I have had a little go myself, and it seemed alright, so that's good, I hope. Performance appears to be better and such like, invisible soldiers having not yet been noticed, and a distinct lack of people complaining about freezes and crashes. But it is very early on, so we'll see if that alters. It may well do, but currently I'm encouraged, and it looks good. So I'm going to go through what DICE have laid out for this patch, but not just in the way you've already heard other people do it possibly. I'm going to detail why it's important that it actually provides what they've said it will provide. I'll talk about the different aspects of it and the impact it could have. I'll also talk about its scheduling and to what degree I think it will both help the game and whether the planned improvements live up to community expectations, all with the idea that I said last week this is a make or break update for the game and the community. Essentially, if this month, maybe even this week, doesn't bring significant improvements, then this game could be just a few steps away from death. And not the thing of, oh, this game's already dead. I mean, literally irrelevant. So many people will leave. I'm very sad to be expressing that, but honesty is what I bring to you all the time. Your role today is to tell me what your experience of the patch is so far, if you've played it, to help us to start to build up an idea if this is the catalyst for Battlefield 5 to go in the right direction, or if it's part of the descent along a downward spiral. I really hope to hear good news from you. As I've said so far, it all seems pretty decent. I'll then be going to play more, I'll be reading your responses and looking for the feelings of others on Twitter and YouTube, which will help me to create my overall verdict on if this is the patch we need, wanted, and honestly deserve at this point, and I'll put that follow-up video out within a day or two. Now, the update notes. I'll quickly run through here what they are in case you aren't aware. If you want to see the notes for yourself, I'll leave a link to them in the description and my pinned comment. So very quickly, what's new? Well, there's two things. They've reduced the recoil and increased the muzzle velocity for the P08 carbine in a bid to improve its effectiveness, and kills in Firestorm are now awarded if the enemy player disconnects during the down state. Those changes are both fine and welcome in my opinion, although they're both kind of minor, but the Firestorm one was especially needed, so good stuff. Now, what's changed? Well, those fixes targeted at removing extreme instances of invisible soldiers. Specializations are now able to be reset on the P08 carbine. The game will no longer stutter when killing enemies with tanks. They've removed an unintended suppression effect applied to infantry when tanks fire their main cannon. The screen will no longer turn black when firing stationary cannons. The Arras sights on the Lewis gun now display correctly when using extended mags. The Mark 6 revolver has had its rate of fire reduced to 180 RPM from 200. And I do just want to say quickly here, as I won't touch on this afterwards with the main talking points, I don't really understand this change. Some feel the revolver was overpowered, some didn't. But why are we nerfing an actual good sidearm when most of, if not all of the others, just suck outright? Why not buff those instead or as well? I just don't get that. Anyway, next change. The correct crosshair now shows for the Mosquito FB Mark 6 on all loadouts. The company now displays the correct amount of bombs for the Ju-88, and players trying to spawn into aeroplanes should no longer get stuck in the deploy screen. And yes, those are all of the listed changes for this delayed update. It's not what I had expected or hoped for, in all honesty. And I think it's probably a much shorter list of changes than many expected, especially when so many of the changes are so minor when compared with a lot of the problems plaguing the game. So it makes it even more important that they deliver on what they say is supposed to be altered and improved. If so, then happy days. And as I open the video with, it does appear to be so far so good on that front. want. But remember to let me know your experience so far in the comments. If things don't turn out to have gone well though, if problems do come to light, then that, combined with a smaller amount of fixes than hoped for, is really going to put a dark spin on things for a lot of the community. And I honestly have seen a lot of people saying, those are all of the notes? That's all that's being done this week? Which isn't a great start. I think people felt that, as I believe this patch was delayed, we'd be getting a bit more. But if delaying it means that what's actually listed actually works, then I'm cool with it. A bit late for baby steps, but I'll take it. Especially with them introducing new bugs instead if they were to rush it out. Now we do have details of what to expect in upcoming updates, and I'll detail those for you and the impact I think they'll have, but let's finish up with this current update first. So the notes open with a bit of an extra explanation. It contains the statement, in this update we've taken positive steps towards removing instances of the invisible soldier. We believe that the extreme instances of this issue have been stamped out, though we'll be monitoring for any lingering issues. I feel it's important to highlight this as a key point due to it appearing to be honestly the one big positive step for this update. There really isn't much else listed for people to get behind in terms of the state of the game, so it's encouraging, I'll say, and it's extra important to highlight this because so far the signs have been good that they've got this right, so well done to them. But if the issue persists, then people will focus on the use of the term extreme instances and say it's not good enough. We need them completely gone, which is fair in all honesty. But all improvements are always welcome, and I have my fingers absolutely crossed that they've nailed it. And I also want to bring to light the statement, stability and performance issues continue to be a priority for future updates. And I know they keep saying it, and I know things have been bad for a long time, but at least they're putting that out there so we can hold them to it. So before I cover what changes are set to come in updates soon, I'll sum that all up and link to the title and concept of the video. Can this update save, let's say, the future of Battlefield 5? Well, it can be the start of it if everything goes damn near perfectly from here. If the early signs are correct, meaning stability has improved and invisible soldiers have been eradicated, then I'd really like to think of this as a potential catalyst for an epic fight back. The downsides are that we've waited for what seems like not very much overall, which is disappointing, and doesn't allow me to sit here and give a resounding yes that things are seriously looking up. I just can't do that. But at least there's potential. The game isn't quite dead yet, and if this update doesn't blow up in their faces, then we won't see another mass exodus of players because of it, at least right now, which although it may sound not overly fantastic, is positive, because I'm telling you it was very likely. So now, what's next? Well, there's a much smaller update next week intended to simply make a new map playable. That map is Marita. This does mean that we'll likely be playing that new map before we can even play Conquest on the one released before this, Al Sundan, which shows how messed up that map is, to be honest. But let's look at this as a positive overall. A new map is coming very soon, and this adds to the content in the game. If that map is good, and that combines with this update having hopefully gone well, then it's a great step towards hopefully stabilizing this game. And we have news about the next large update, or I say large, I mean more so just an update rather than a hotfix, because it's not that big. And this brings both good and bad with it. The initial issue is that it's a very short list again, only 7 bullet points, although I guess this could be added to between now and release. And the other issue is that it's currently scheduled for late August, and well, I'll get to that. But what does it include? Well, additional fixes to improve performance and stability. I think at this point we'd rather that phrase not be used over and over all the time, and instead get actual details about what's being targeted, so we know what to expect and what they can be held accountable for. It also makes this list seem pretty uninspiring, as that's so vague and there's so little to cling to for encouragement. Then there's 2 new maps, Lofoten Islands and Provence, or Provence, I'm not sure. As long as they arrive on time and are well implemented, then that's awesome. Great news. Then there's an increase to the level cap, taking it to 500. I can't get excited about that, as it's just far too late, kinda laughable to be honest, but at least it's coming. Then there's an update to Fortress mode. No more details than that, so there's not much for me to say there. There's new weapons in preparation for subsequent Tides of War rewards. Basically, that shouldn't be on the list, I feel, as they aren't all available with the update, they come later. I find it a little confusing that they put these things into the update notes as if it's part of the update. No, it's spread out throughout that Tide of War. But yay for new weapons eventually, that is a good thing overall. There's fixes for desynchronized Top Gunner hitboxes on certain vehicles, and also the same for when reviving and vaulting. So there's some good in there. I'm trying to be positive. It all seems like not a huge amount when you put these updates together, if I'm being totally honest, and there's a lot of waiting. I am clinging to them making improvements, and if that all goes well, then that'll be excellent. But that update is about a month or so away, which means issues we do have now, of which there are still many, will remain at least until then. So it's a mix of good good and bad. I know many people don't want to keep waiting on promises only to then be potentially disappointed. So as I stated earlier, whenever we do get these updates, they absolutely now need to work pretty much every time. We see a fair few other games doing updates more quickly and them being larger, so these have to work in Battlefield now. But I'm hoping for the very best from this point forwards. But some bigger issues such as hit detection and the overall netcode absolutely need to be handled in the near future. Little changes to things like specific weapons pale in comparison. And so that's all why this update and what's to come could have gone a lot worse, and yet looks a little bit of a letdown at the same time. It's not a death knell though, and hopefully it could all come together to keep this game alive. We'll just have to see. Remember to let me know what you think of this update once you've played it, and if you enjoyed the video, it takes no effort to turn on notifications to stay up to date, as subscriptions just aren't very reliable these days anymore. But I'd obviously also really appreciate if you'd like, subscribe, and join my Discord server in the description and my pinned comment. Here's the Board of Awesome for the epic people who support the channel on Patreon. They're all absolute heroes and I love them all deeply and of course, often. If you want to join them on the Board of Awesome, the link to the Patreon page is in the description and my pinned comment. And with that all said, I'm GetGoodGuy and I'll see you next time. Laters.